Welcome back to the Just Fantasy Baseball podcast. My name is Rami, Lavi. That is my buddy Vince Damato with the new background. You're just hanging out, hovering above Wrigley Field, aren't you, huh?
Yeah, I came to visit for the day, so I just thought, I may as well record as long as I'm here. No, I wanted to change it up. At first, I was like, if my fantasy season was going bad, I'd put flames behind me or something. The everything's fine, but I didn't feel like that fit. I was watching the Cubs earlier, so I thought, we'll just roll with a baseball themed thing for today.
Hey, you could have fooled me. It looks pretty good back there.
Oh,
Kidding.
thank you.
I mean, it does look good, but I know you're not there.
Yeah.
Something about the headphones.
Yeah, they're
dissolving in and out. Yeah. Gave it away. Oh, man. All right. Let's kick it off with some news and notes. I want to start here. Guess. It makes it so unique because I went to a Yankees-Angels game a few weeks ago, and I think we talked about it. And it was a doubleheader, and Anthony Rendon played in game one of the doubleheader. Of course, he didn't play in game two, but he played in game one. And I was like, well, this is rare. Anthony Rendon playing in a baseball game. Well, he's back on the injured list with an elbow injury. So, is anyone surprised?
No, we knew that one was coming. It was a matter of time. We should have done a sell high, but nobody was going to buy. So
nobody was going to buy that. That was the worst sell high ever. The other one that's kind of frustrating is Hunter Green, out with an elbow injury as well on the IL, elbow inflammation. So
it does. I did want to mention it does look like Rendon started tonight, 0 for 4.
Congrats! I'm happy he's back.
He worked his way through it. Yeah.
Yeah, good for him playing through it. Known tough guy, Anthony Rendon, fighting through the pain.
And if you're worried about getting him, you better hurry because he's rostered in a whole 19% of leagues. So, get him before he's gone.
Yeah, you don't want to miss the opportunity to snag up that 0 for 4 before you cannot get it anymore. Ahmed Rosario, we talked about this, so I want to follow up on this. Cincinnati Reds, what does that do for you? Does that do anything for you? Utility spot, kind of no value situation, right?
Not really. I mean, certainly nothing really worth an ad unless maybe you're in a really struggling 15, 16 team league, but no, nothing really noteworthy from the perspective we talked about.
That's what I thought. Austin Riley, he has a fracture in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. And my question for you, obviously outside of the obvious, well, this is, I don't know, top 3 third baseman. When you think about, I guess, Gunner's third base eligible and obviously Jose Ramirez, is there really many other third basemen who are great?
The only other one I'd put in Devers.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about Devers.
That. But no, they're kind of in a. It feels like Devers and Riley are in their own kind of tier, and Gunner, is in Gunner and J Ram are in a tier of their own. But he's a consistent second rounder every year, and I don't think that'll change. Maybe he'll probably fall into the third round next year a little bit, but he's still who he is, and it's just it's too bad. He's one of the best hitters in the game, so.
Who are you looking at? Do you think that who's going to be playing there for Atlanta that you think may have some added value?
That's a good question. I would say I hope Nacho Alvarez gets some run, but I saw he was out for, I can't remember what the reason was, but Nacho Alvarez is the one that I'm watching for. He came up and struggled a little bit in his first stint. He was out with pneumonia. That's what he's been missing.
In the summer? He has pneumonia in August? Who the hell gets pneumonia in August?
Good question. I don't know. And I didn't see who was playing third base for them since he went down, because they probably had someone in their lineup at third base today, I would hope. Otherwise, not quite sure what they're doing. Let's see who did they have here. Braves played the Phillies today, and they lost 3-2. And at third base, they had your guy, Gio Urshela.
Oh, I just saw they signed him.
Yep, who went 2 for 4 today.
I did see that. Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, man, Gio Urshela is about to tear it up. Go pick up Gio Urshela. Ride him while he's hot. He's going to tear it up for Atlanta. My question for you is, it's pretty much Atlanta and the Mets for the last wild card spot. And no matter how many guys on Atlanta go down, is there any doubt in your mind that Atlanta's going to get that? We've had a history of our entire lives of Atlanta and the Mets fighting for a playoff spot. Guess who gets it every single time?
Yeah, we
Atlanta.
know. Yep.
We know how this ends. We know how this goes. So as fun as the Mets were this week against the Orioles, and we'll get into that in a second, I mean, it's going to be the Braves. It's always the Braves. Are you listening,
Yeah.
Ryan?
Yeah. I'll root for the Mets a little bit. You know why?
I'm rooting for the Mets. I'm always rooting for the Mets.
Right.
I love the Mets.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Atlanta is as hurt as they are, and maybe now no Austin Riley will change things. I mean, they're just decimated.
Nothing matters. I mean, freaking Chris Sale is like pitching like he was in Chicago. It's unbelievable.
Watch out for him. Yep. I called that one. I told you watch out for Chris Sale. Yeah, I'd like to think the Mets could do it, but yeah, if you're asking me, a betting man, to put money on it, yeah, you got to bet on the Braves.
Speaking of a guy turning back the clock, Justin Verlander back. Not exactly turning back the clock. The Astros kind of in a little bit of a funk over the last week or so. But JV, always, I know it's the second time I've said this on this show this year, but always good to see him back. And there's always the upside that Justin Verlander is going to be Justin Verlander, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could happen any straight or any start. He retired 10 straight to finish the outing, which I thought was a good sign. Yeah. But yeah, it might take a couple starts, but still, he's a guy that you're going to throw out there again, unless it's the only team I'm not going to start him against is maybe Baltimore or another high octane offense, maybe like a Philly or something like that. But he's probably going to start 95% of the games. He does go against Philly on the 27th. So I may sit that one out. And then he's against Kansas City. Maybe this is a good sell high considering those next two opponents, because those are two good offenses. So Vinny P's been tearing the cover off the ball. Maybe Verlander's a guy you sit for those two or sell high on, because those two starts could trend the wrong way. But Rami, you're absolutely right. He is he a first ballot? Those always confuse me on whether or not what's a first ballot. But Justin Verlander is certainly, if anyone's going to be a first ballot in the next, 10 years, he's certainly in that short list of guys.
Do you think Jose Ramirez is a first ballot Hall of Famer? My friend who was calling the game today was like, is there anyone more underrated than Jose Ramirez? Of course, he's calling the Yankee game. And he was saying, he's listing off all the numbers. He's listing off the contract that he took, the massive pay cut of what he could have gotten, year after year after year. Like, he's like, statistically, Jose Ramirez is a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I don't know if he was just getting excited, but I was thinking about it. I was like, he might not be wrong.
It's hard to say, again, because this is where it gets
at this point, it's hard to, yeah.
What do you need out of a first ballot? And I will say the last 1, 2, 3, 4, the last 5 years of production have pretty much been unmatched. I mean, 2023 was a fine year. It wasn't a tremendous year by any means. I mean, it was obviously phenomenal just from a, normal standpoint, but like, an average baseball players, but if you're talking first ballot Hall of Fame type of season, last year wasn't it, but this year, 2022, 2021, and 2020, all just outstanding numbers, even 2018. He's
been the best player at his position for half a decade.
Offensively, not defensively. And that's, again, how much you take into consideration for that. I don't think he has a horrible glove, but, Nolan or an
switch hitter also.
Switch hitter, sure. The speed is huge. I mean, he's an RBI producer with speed. I think he's in the conversation again.
I think him being underrated helps make him a first ballot, because all the writers are going to try and be like, look at this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look at how off you guys. And it could depend on how he finishes out his career. I mean, I think, he's 31, so he's still got a couple good years.
Oh, I hope he plays 7, 8 more years of good baseball. But that's just an interesting question. 2 more points before we get to the New York locals, because I have stories on both. Obviously. One of these 2 points is a New York local, but it's Luis Hill going to the 15-day and not the 10-day IL. He left yesterday's game with back tightness. Tightness is my second favorite to general soreness, but tightness is also a fun one. And he has back tightness, leaves the game early. The Yankees are shutting him down for 15 days, but this might be a little bit of manipulation here because he was struggling in the game. The trainer comes out, they take him out. Now he called the trainer over, so I do believe he felt something. But the Yankees are saying he's going to continue to throw throughout his IL stint, which to me, and may not even need a rehab start. To me, this is an excuse to, hey, let's shelve him. This is a good opportunity to shelve him for 2 weeks, get him back up and going for the pennant race. Nestor pitched well tonight. Stroman's back pitching well. Rodon's been mostly good 4 of his last 5 starts. Here's an opportunity, obviously. Here's an opportunity for Luis Gil. We talked about the innings limit all year. This could be it.
Yeah, I mean, this is what you mentioned it. We talked about all year. We called them a sell high at some point because of this.
But I like this though. No, this is better because if it's going to be just 2 weeks now and then he's coming back strong and it's no restrictions for the rest of the year, that means playoff time in fantasy baseball. He's going to be firing on all cylinders for you. I think this is good news. He's not hurt. He's going to keep pitching. He's not really hurt. And he's going to get his rest now. So if you're going into fantasy playoffs, you can have Luis Gil on your roster.
Okay, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I
That's
may
a positive
disagree
spin.
with that.
I don't.
Sure,
okay.
I may if I have Luis Gil, and obviously it depends on the price, but I might be willing to cash out because I would want something maybe a little more for sure.
But this is the lowest price you're going to get,
right?
With him on the IL now. Yeah, that's my point. Where if you're selling low right now, if you're selling your Luis Gil stock right now, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy low on Luis Gil right now.
I don't know. I mean, his ERA is as high as it's been. He's 6 walks in his last start. I don't know. I mean, it feels a little off. I'd have to dive in maybe a little more, but I see your point. I do, right? Because the price is low.
I think the Yankees are looking at that stuff and saying, okay, now's a good time to get him a break.
Yeah.
He'll come back strong. He's a good pitcher.
We just don't know when.
Do you believe? I know, but do you believe he's a good pitcher?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he's proven enough. So if you believe he's a good pitcher, I think whenever this break is up, he's going to come back and be a good pitcher.
I hope you're right. I do.
Okay. And the last one is Christian Yelich. We kind of anticipated this when we talked about it a couple weeks ago. He got hurt. He was going to try and rest and see what happened. And then he decided the rest wasn't working. He's opted for season-ending back surgery. So sucks, but not shocking.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm still looking at Luis Gil, just some underlying stuff from him. Just a little bit. I'd like to see a little more control, but
that's been his problem.
Yeah, right.
It's not. And John Sterling was back in the booth for the Yankees yesterday, so it was actually fun to listen to John call 2 innings for the Yankees. They celebrated him. They honored him. We did a WFAN John Susan T-shirt night, which was really cool. But he was back. He's like, he was saying how he finds a lot of pitchers in baseball are scared to throw strikes because of, they're scared to leave a ball in the zone and it gets hit really far. So they're nibbling. He said he's like, Luis Gil's not scared. He just is not good at throwing strikes. Yeah. He doesn't have good control.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah. No, anyways, yeah, I'm sorry. I'll shut up about Gil.
No, yeah, you're right.
Yelich is a tough one. Like, he was one of the guys that we mentioned. I throw him in the same class, even though I know they're a little bit different age-wise, but the guys that you root for, like when we talked about Andrew McCutchen, Yelich is one of those guys. And, I know it's taboo, right? He's in the Brewers and I'm a Cubs fan, but he's a guy, again, you can't hate him. So too bad for Yelich. He was having a good year.
Yeah, and it's been up and down for him so much. And this flared up around the All-Star break with the back stuff, and he was supposed to just be out a little bit, and then because he even said going into the All-Star break that he thought he was going to – this was on part of my take, so take it with a grain of salt, but he called into the show and he said he was thinking of doing the home run derby this year, and if his back wasn't hurting, he would have done it, but his back was already hurting then, and then, that kind of sucks that – he goes from, I'm going to sit out the home run derby because my back doesn't feel great too. I'm out for the year with back surgery.
Which is kind of surprising because, the Brewers being in the playoff spot that they're in, Yelich, how many more of these you got? I don't know. Like, it must really be hurting for him to
And that's what he
to opt
said. He
out.
said,
Yeah,
I think that is why he tried to let it go without the surgery, because
sure.
I think he knows where he's at in his career and he'd like to be part of this run. Could you name the Brewers manager? Top of your head.
Oh, what's his name?
We did this on the show the other day. That's
No,
why I'm
not
asking. Because I think he could be manager of the year easily.
I forget what his name. It's
And you can't name him. I don't have a computer in front
no.
of me, so I can't even look it up.
Do you remember now that you played the game?
No, we played the game and I still can't remember. If you say it, I'll remember. It'll ring a bell.
Pat Murphy.
Pat Murphy.
Yep.
Isn't that crazy? But he could be like
He certainly should be, right? I mean, with the
him
way
and
they
Carlos
played.
Mendoza. I think Carlos Mendoza, if the Mets make the playoffs, and maybe it's local bias for me, but they were 11 games under 500. The team was a mess. Jorge Lopez throws the glove over and the run they've been on, and
I
the
would
way he's kept
also.
it together.
Oh, I guess that's sorry. I guess we are talking National League. I was also thinking the Royals manager Matt Quatraro. I don't know how you say
Yeah,
his last name, but
no, that's fair.
it's certainly been surprising.
And Alex Cora, I could give it to him every year, and certainly you could make the case for Brian Snitker. I know they were expected to be a World Series team, but look how many injuries they've had to sustain. So you could so you could certainly make the case for him. The two local stories. I was at the Met game today. Did you see the walk-off home run that Jesse Winker hit?
No, I was watching Isaac Paredes swing out of his shoes.
So first of all, super cool thing. They do this thing where they have an SNY suite and they put Gary, Keith, and Ron in the SNY suite once a year to call the game from the suite, which is a lower level than it's right behind home plate. It's a lower level than the regular booth where they call the game. And they're bringing them the food and drinks from the suite the whole time. And they're basically showing off the SNY suite to the fans like, hey, come get a suite at Citi Field. So they do it one game a year. And I happen to have been in the SNY suite today, and I'm sitting directly in front of them, watching arguably the best booth in baseball call the game. Anyway, if you don't know what happened with this Mets and Orioles series, it was awesome. Game 1, the Mets win on a Francisco Alvarez walk-off home run. And then Game 2, the Orioles come back, they win it, and the Mets look sloppy in the game. And the Orioles on social media, Kevin Brown, their broadcaster, were trolling the Mets. New York mess, they were calling them. METS, mess, like the whole troll job. And then today, after the Orioles tie it up, the first, Manaea has a perfect game going. He gives up a walk. He hits a batter to break up the perfect game, and then gives up a 2-run bomb to break up the no-hitter, the perfect game, the shutout, the whole bit. He ends up pitching into the 8th inning. Great start for Manaea. It's 2-2 now. Vientos hits a home run to make it 3-2. The Mets are up 1 now. Orioles come back again, tied again. Kimbrel comes in, no damage done. And then in the bottom of the 9th, Jesse Winker, the Met killer for so many years, hits a walk-off home run and pimped this home run. He took his helmet, slammed it down before he even left the batter's box, took his batting gloves, took his arm sleeve, threw it at the dugout, and only then started rounding the bases. And the Orioles, shout out to their social team, because they put up on the big screen, they put up the famous meme that says, I want you to put the word out that we're back up. Right? Do you know the meme from
I don't
The
know
Wire?
the meme, but I did just watch the walk-off.
It's a meme from The Wire.
Okay.
The Wire takes place in Baltimore. And it's a meme that people will use oftentimes. I want you to put the word out that we're back up. And they put a Mets hat on the guy from The Wire. And they're trolling the Baltimore Orioles with the Baltimore, probably the most popular TV show from Baltimore, or popular anything for Baltimore ever. And I captured a picture of it, and John Boy Media reposted my thing. They posted it. If you go look at John Boy or Talking Baseball's Instagram page, they have with my name on it, Rami Lavi. It says and it has the picture of my tweet that I put out there of the picture of the giant screen, which is the biggest screen in baseball. And it's so funny because I was leaving. I was standing next to Gary, Keith, and Ron, actually, getting ready to just give them a little salute and leave. And I turn around and look at the big scoreboard. So I quickly snapped a picture of it. It was a mindless tweet. It's got 300,000 views on Twitter right now. Nice. So yeah, the Mets themselves, the official Mets account, liked my tweet, which was funny. But yeah, it was an awesome series. Now the other New York story, and Ryan, I'm sure you're jealous that I was at that game. The other New York story is Aaron Judge hit 2 home runs tonight. He now has 47 on the year. He's on pace for 60. He's batting 334. It's unbelievable. And Juan Soto hit his 36th home run of the year. That's a new career high for Juan Soto. And don't tell me that they're all Yankee Stadium home runs, because he hit most of them, like tonight, 400 feet the other way. So, they're not all wall scrapers to Yankee Stadium. He hasn't changed his approach at all. And my favorite part was, with the bases loaded and 2 outs, Juan Soto poked a ball, like kind of swinging bunted a ball after hitting a 400-foot home run the other way. Had a swinging bunt down the line because they were playing off the third base line. Swinging bunt down the line for a bases clearing double. So the guy who can hit the 450-foot bomb and also can just poke one the other way for a ground ball that just stays inside third base for a 3-run double, that's awesome. He's one of the best hitters. The two, Soto and Judge, combined for all eight of the Yankees' RBIs tonight. So awesome stuff from those two guys.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking at his spray chart, it definitely he definitely favors the right field corner, but it's not even the corner. It's like, I mean, they're bombs, right? They're not just over the fence. I mean, he is hitting the shit out of the ball. Juan Soto is having one of the best years of his career.
He's got a month left. He's 25 years old. He surpassed his career high in home runs, and he's still batting over 300. The fact that the Yankees have two guys batting over 300, two guys who are going to hit 45-plus home runs, Aaron Judge is already there, and they each have a 1,000-plus OPS. And yet the Yankees' offense is pretty bad. I mean, I know statistically they're good, but I watch them on a nightly basis. They can't score half the games, and they have a bunch of games where they score a ton of runs. It's just interesting. All right, we've done this for too long without even getting into the main topics. So let's start with who's hot and who's not. I have two hots, so I'll start, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Masataka Yoshida is my number one. He's on my fantasy team, so spoiler alert, but not a guy who hits a ton of home runs. But in the last week, 580 on base, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, 5 runs scored, and threw in a stolen base for you. How about that?
Yeah, I see him as, is it 2? I think I have him as 2 over the last week. Either way, yeah, I mean, 500 batting average.
I said 2 home runs.
No, 2 stolen bases.
Oh, 2 stolen bases too, man. Because he had one tonight.
Oh, no,
maybe.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's strikeouts. That's SO, not SB. Those are still
only 2 strikeouts.
I was going to say that's impressive in and of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been hot. I'd love to see it. Like you said, not a guy who usually makes these headlines, but good for him. Happy to see it.
I picked him up as a waiver guy, kind of fill an outfield spot, and I've been finding that I need to play him every day.
Yeah, I mean, at this rate, I mean,
I'll ride him until he's hot. Until he's while he's hot. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who's your hot?
My hot is same team, same position, just a little bit more well known. Jarren Duran, outfielder.
You used him last week, you racist, homophobic piece of shit.
I used him. Wait, that's funny. Is that bad that I already forgot that he said all that or did that? Whatever.
I don't think it just is.
It just I forgot it. Whatever, because the guy's just tearing the cover off the ball. I picked him for our mock draft. That's what it was.
Yes, I know.
He hasn't disappointed since then, so I kind of wanted to, rub a little salt in the wound. Over the last 7 days, Jarren Duran is hitting 313, 353, 656 slash line with 3 home runs and 2 stolen bases. On the season, 293, 352, 513 slash with 17 bombs and 32 stolen bases. Rami, this guy is entering the top 30 discussion for next year in redraft. And I think we could be talking, how we mentioned Austin Riley as a 2nd, 3rd round guy. I think that's exactly where Jarren Duran's going to fall in. And part of me feels like he'll still be underrated next year. So be on the lookout as to how his stock adjusts over the winter. But right now, Jarren Duran is absolutely solidifying himself.
Yeah, and his jersey sales in Boston have now surpassed Tom Brady and Paul Pierce combined. So that's a fun stat.
That's funny. I didn't see that one.
I don't think that's true. But he did have the number 1 jersey sale in the league last week while he was suspended 2 games. So, and I did see a funny meme where the Tom Brenneman put out like it was a fake statement from Tom Brenneman saying like, "What the fuck? Why does this guy only get 2 games?" um, anyway, we're terrible people. My last hot is Jose Barrios. He's 2-0 in his last 2 starts, 14 innings, only 2 runs allowed, 12 strikeouts, and a .79 ERA. And I didn't write it down, and I don't have a computer in front of me. I looked and I saw his stats for like the last 2 or 3 weeks have been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
We've been waiting all year for this team to show up, and now he's pitching great, of course. Now they're far out of it.
Yeah, Barrios was on my list of potential guys to talk about here, but I love the fact his last 3 outings, he's gone 7 innings and allowed
Yeah.
just 4 earned runs, and his
Mhm.
strikeouts have ticked up. He's not walking as many guys, so yeah, I mean he's certainly figured it out. His surface stats look solid, but not a lot of strikeout upside that you've seen so far. But you're actually absolutely seeing a little bit of a flash for Barrios right now. So I think that's a good pick.
My first not hot.
Sure.
Who's not hot? My first one is Stephen Kwan, and similar to Masataka Yoshida, he's a guy that if he's not getting on base and stealing those bases and scoring runs, he's a little bit useless. You're not going to get a ton of home run and RBI production from him. So the fact that the last couple of weeks his on base is 255, that's terrible. Because if you're getting a 250 on base and you're still not getting that production because that's just not who he is as a player, now you're really at a deficit. And unfortunately, he's not doing enough elsewhere to make up for that 250 on base deficit.
Yeah, I had to take him out of a couple lineups this last week for that exact reason. There's not enough juice, right? And like you said, if he's not getting on base and scoring a lot of runs, I absolutely agree with you. He's not like he's stealing a million bases either, which is kind of surprising.
He has like 10 or 12 this year, not a
10,
ton.
but he's caught 4 times. So like,
Yeah.
it's surprising given the landscape. I thought he would be a guy who
and the way Cleveland
really
plays baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Like Cleveland wants to hit and run. They want to steal bases. They want to, small ball. They had 6 infield hits against the Yankees, I think, the other night. So yeah, that's how they play, and it's just weird that they haven't been able to. He hasn't been able to be a big part of that, even though he's been a huge part of their offensive success with his on base.
Yeah, I agree with that. I went in a different direction with my who's not hot. I almost called this guy a buy low, but I'm not sure I'm ready to jump on the buy low just yet. That is Lawrence Butler for the Oakland Athletics. Ice cold in the month of August after the scorching hot July. The August slash line 170, yes, 170 batting average with a 217 on base and a 283 slug, just 1 home run versus his July 363 average, 408 on base and 802 slug. This feels a little bit like maybe a Nolan Gorman-esque phase, right? Where just hot at times. I don't think that that's who he's going to be. I think he'll be more like a Schwarber guy. Like over a season, he'll put together, he's going to have hot and cold stretches. I think that's just the nature of some of these guys. And his average, he's not going to hit 260, he may hover around 240, 250, but I think he's going to, again, Schwarber light or generic Schwarber. I think he's closer to that than Nolan Gorman, but Lawrence Butler has been ice cold, and I'm not quite ready to fully buy in on that. I just think that over the long term, that's what Butler's going to be. But for this year, I'd maybe buying low, but I'd be cautiously buying low because I don't know if it's fully going to be that just yet. So we'll see. But Lawrence Butler has not put together a good August. So that's too bad. Hate to see it.
Yeah, I would say the problem is, as a former Schwarber owner, it is infuriating to look every night and be like, God damn it, this guy with the 3 strikeouts and only got on base once with a walk. And then he's just gonna have a game where he hits 4 home runs for you, and you're just like, oh my God, I guess I'm living with him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You look at the stats at the end of the year and you're like, damn, these stats are great. But on a night-to-night basis, which baseball is a nightly sport, it is infuriating at times.
They may be better served for roto
Oh, for
leagues,
sure.
right? When at
Because
the end of the
altogether, yeah,
season, you
end
know,
of season, you look at it and you're like the numbers are great, but
mhm,
night to night, you're getting killed or it's great, but
yeah, he
it's
may
so volatile.
win you a
Yeah,
week, but he'll probably lose you 3 weeks or something like that,
exactly,
you
and
know,
that's
so
baseball, right?
mhm,
Where you're down more than you're up, but especially for a guy like that.
yeah.
Uh, can you look up something for me?
What do you need?
Ellie De La Cruz, what number stolen base did he have tonight? Because I saw it was
You wanna
I think
guess?
it was his 40th.
Oh,
Because I
whoa, no.
it's
Whoa.
his was it his
60th.
70th?
60th,
60th.
yes.
I knew it was a big number and I couldn't remember what it was. And
60.
40
Yep,
sounded way too low. That's
yep.
unbelievable. We should have led the podcast off with that. Hand up my bad. I wrote it down just now as you were talking because I remembered that I was like, what was the number? What was the number? 60. We're in August.
That's
And it
why
was a
I
steal of third,
that's
which
why
made it
I
even
that's
more awesome.
also yeah, we
Yeah.
love to see that. That's why like you took the saves, I took the stolen bases in our draft. I want
Unreal.
you know who's second in the
Unreal.
league? Do you know who's got 38 stolen bases? I bet you won't guess it.
Shohei Ohtani.
Yes!
I
Nice
knew it
try. Yep,
because we talked about him being the
yep.
first guy since Matt Kemp to have
Mhm.
40-40 for the Dodgers.
Yeah, which is just why,
Like, do
yeah,
you
1 home run
remember
and
when
that's
yeah,
unbelievable.
do you remember when I remember this, when Alfonso Soriano was 40-40 for the Nationals and it was like, "Oh my god, 40-40 is this incredible and now Otani's doing it and he pitches. It's unreal.
I do, unfortunately. I didn't remember it being 40-40, but I do remember him. Yeah,
Alfonso Soriano had
2002.
a 40-40
Yep,
season
39
with
and
the
41.
Washington Nationals.
You know why? Is because a few seasons later, the Cubs grabbed him
I know.
the next
He
season,
wasn't
and
as
he
good.
was not good, and then he fell off a cliff a little bit. I mean, he
And then you know what? He had one of the hottest streaks when he came back to the Yankees. His first when the Yankees traded back for him later in his career. I think he hit safely in his first 16 games as a Yankee, if I'm not mistaken. He had some super hot streak where he had like 25 hits in his first 16 games as a Yankee. And I was at one of those games where he had a huge 2-run homer. It was awesome. The Yankees ended up missing the playoffs, but he was a really fun Yankee. His second time around. Obviously, the first time around, we're talking championship teams and all that stuff. But
Mhm.
anyway, how about Jazz Chisholm? Speaking all about all that jazz, do you see Jazz Chisholm at the Little League game just sitting in the crowd with all the kids? Like
No, I
all the
missed
Yankees
that.
are sitting in the dugout, and he's in full uniform sitting in the stands with the
Hey,
Little
that's
Leaguers.
awesome. Good for him.
And he said he got a kid's number. He
Oh,
said he's a huge fan of this kid, and he exchanged numbers with this kid. And he's like, "That's my little brother. Whenever if you need a glove, you need bats, your equipment, you need help, I'm your big bro who's in the big leagues. I'm gonna help you get here." That is just Jazz Chisholm's awesome. I
no,
love
I missed
Jazz
that,
Chisholm.
but
He took
yeah.
batting practice on the field today at Yankee Stadium, so hopefully he's back soon. My second not hot, and this is also you talked about a guy that you almost thought of as a buy low. This is a buy low for me. Sir Anthony Dominguez was announced as the Orioles closer by manager Brandon Hyde 2 days ago. Craig Kimbrell doesn't have a save in a month, over a month, actually, to be exact. Sir Anthony Dominguez, since being announced as the Orioles closer, has faced 4 batters. 4. He struck out 2 of them. That's pretty good. The other 2, he gave up the 2 longest, most dramatic bombs I've ever seen in my life to Francisco Alvarez and to Jesse Winker. And just dramatic, like soul shifting, goosebump. I was in one of them. For one of them, I was in the WFAN studio sitting during a commercial break with Keith McPherson and Anthony Gallo, and the 3 of us are sitting in the studio watching this. And there's a video. Unfortunately, the camera was only on Keith because he was the one hosting the show. But you see him high-fiving people. It was me and Anthony. I've never called him Anthony in my life. His name's Gallo. Anyway, but the point is, we were going berserk. It was like such, and we're Yankee fans, me and Keith, but obviously we're rooting against the Orioles as well. But it was such a such a crazy home run, and the way Alvarez pimped it, and then 2 days later, he comes in to face Alvarez, strikes him out, and then the very next batter he faces in the bottom of the ninth, leading off, he gets him to 0-2. Jesse Winker battles back to full. then golfs a pitch that was like at his shins, by the way. And as if Francisco Alvarez's reaction and pimp job wasn't enough, Jesse Winker's was 10 times more the pimp job, where he just like threw his stuff down. He said on the field after the game with Steve Gelbs, he said, "I just blacked out. I don't even know what happened." But here's why it's a buy low. This is a tough spot right now for Brandon Hyde. It feels like he's losing the team a little bit. There's guys getting ejected. Another one happened today. There's rumors already in Baltimore that he's not going to make it past this year. Like their talent exceeded his level of manager, and they may be looking for a new ownership came in. They may be looking for a new voice next year, new face, if you will, to replace Brandon Hyde. I think Brandon Hyde would have such egg on his face if he named Sir Anthony Dominguez the closer, and after 2 days, he's taking it away from him, and just to give it back to fucking Craig Kimbrell, who we know sucks? Like, no, they're not doing that. He's going to work it out. The Orioles are going to be good the rest of the year. And for the leagues that you're in, that he's a 40% roster, or people are like, God damn it, this guy sucks, and they're giving up on him already, guess what? Sir Anthony Dominguez is going to be a closer. He's going to get you saves, and he's going to be good for the Orioles. So he's my not hot, but he's also my buy low.
I like the little cross combo there. I liked it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize too. Kimbrell gave up one of the home runs that you mentioned today too. So,
the Vientos, yes.
Yeah. It's not
Kimbrell can't come into a game without giving up a home run. So that was the token Kimbrell home run. That it didn't even. My cousin who was at the game also. We sat together for a minute before I dipped out into the bougie section. Although he was sitting around, he's an Orioles fan. He was sitting around on top of the Orioles dugout. Let's not act like he wasn't in a bougie section, but. He texted me. He's like, "Well, Kimbrell couldn't have an outing without giving up a home run," and it didn't even register that was Kimbrell who gave up the home run. I was like, "Yeah, it could have been anyone," but of course, Kimbrell gave up the home run.
I love it. My buy low, right? Because do you have one? I assume
that was my only buy low. Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna go with a guy who's coming off the injured list. Maybe you've forgotten his name a little bit. Maybe you forgot how good and disgusting and filthy this guy is. Jared Jones just threw a rehab start in AAA, went 5 innings and 10 strikeouts to just 1 hit and 0 walks. He was dominant. Perfect guy to target right now, I think, for a late season push. Hasn't pitched since July 3rd, so I don't think innings are an issue. This was, I think they're going to push him and probably stretch him out a little bit to try to get his stamina up for next year. And don't forget, before going down with the injury, 3.56 ERA, 26% strikeout rate, phenomenal 32% whiff rate. And I think this is one of those, it could be the out of sight, out of mind. Maybe someone just forgot how good he is or whatever the case is. I think this is, a potential SP1, SP2 return if you, play your cards right and buy low on him. I think you can get him for an SP3 price. And so that's why I put him on here. I think people, again, just forgot who he was. If you need an arm for the playoffs, Jared Jones is a guy I'm absolutely targeting.
It's so funny that you said that because it kind of relates to my sell high. I have a rule when it comes to football. Whenever anyone has ever said about them, that their GM says, we're not trading blank, they're automatically trading that person. When the Pittsburgh Pirates announced, we're not planning on shutting down Paul Skenes, we're just going to scale back his innings a bit. We're not going to shut him down. You know what that means? They're definitely going to shut him down at some point. Yeah, they'll scale it back a little bit, and then it'll be 5 innings, and then it'll be 80 pitches, and then it'll be 70 pitches. And then guess what? They're going to be way out of it. It's going to be the end of the year. We know how fragile these pitchers are. We know how valuable they are. We know that the Pirates aren't signing him to a long-term contract, so they need him to be great. They can't afford to have him sit out and miss a year with Tommy John. Paul Skenes is going to be shut down. Trade him. He's awesome. For a couple of weeks, it might sting. It might suck that he's putting up Cy Young Rookie of the Year numbers for someone else. And guess what? On September 2nd, when he's shut down for the year, you're going to sing hallelujah.
I think that's a phenomenal call out. We got a a mailbag question not too long ago. I don't know if you remember, but it was a trade Mookie Betts for Paul Skenes. Which side do you lean in? This was when Mookie was still out with the injury, but at this point, I mean, it's got to be Mookie for that
It's
exact
obvious
reason.
now he's back.
We talked about, right?
Yeah.
And so, that was part of the discussion was how much are they going to limit Skenes? And if I'm the Pittsburgh Pirates, I'm going to limit him pretty much as
much as I can. Yeah.
I mean, you maybe want him to get to he's at 120, or I'm sorry, 98 innings, but
you want him to get to whatever number would be respectable for him to have, that he can respectfully win the Rookie of the Year. And I don't think he can win the Cy Young with 110 innings pitched, in my opinion, or 100, even if it gets to 120. I think he pitched 123 last year at LSU, something in that range. Mm-hmm. I don't see him going much further than one. If he went 123 last year, I don't see him going much more than 130 this year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is kind of wild that I do think Wheeler seems like a potential lock. All of the best pitchers right now are in the American League. I mean,
Skubal,
Gilbert, Burns.
I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. Somebody texted me. This is so stupid. We do this every year, but I'll do it anyway. It's a classic sports talk radio topic. Can you make the case for Emmanuel Clase to win the Cy Young in the American League? I mean, if Skubal didn't exist, I guess.
Yeah, right. I think that's I don't know how you take it away from Skubal right now.
Right.
Can a closer win? I don't know. How do you define the Cy Young?
By the way, and it's so stupid because it's not like he's Brad Lidge perfect season in 2008. He's just not.
Yeah, I don't think I can get.
He's been the best closer in baseball, hands down, but he's not been perfect.
Yeah, and I would argue too. I mean, the ERA, obviously, is that what matters at the end of the day? The .61 ERA, that's phenomenal.
I know he's thrown innings, like 60 pitches, 60 innings. That's what I was gonna say.
And he's got less than 50 strikeouts, which, again, that doesn't really matter. But at the same time, when you're talking about he's not a strikeout pitcher. Give me the guy who is Tariq Skubal, who's thrown 150 innings or 155 innings with 100.
Yeah, but here's the opposite argument. Emmanuel Clase has impacted 50-something games this year for Cleveland, whereas Skubal's only impacted 25 games for Detroit.
That falls apart when you talk about. I mean, he's thrown 2.5 times as many innings. I don't care about how many games you've impacted. Tell me about the volume. Where's your volume? I mean, you're almost a third of the innings.
Well, we use the same argument when we say when Justin Verlander and Clayton Kershaw won MVPs. It was like, well, this is really rare because they don't impact every day. That's why the MVP usually. So how can we use it in that sense to diminish the starter, but we can't use it to prop up the reliever?
That's a good point. I don't know. Maybe should there be a reliever Cy Young?
There is a reliever of the year award. So, yeah, that's a separate award.
He's a lock for that then, and I would say that's where the Cy Young comes in because I mean when you think about Cy Young himself, right? Again, I don't have his numbers
in front of me. 511 wins. He also threw 500 innings in a year. Do you know that Babe Ruth made 2 spot starts for the Yankees in the 30s?
No, like just I learned they needed an arm and
they needed an arm both times. He threw a complete game. Well, gave up 3 runs each time, but like it wasn't about that. It was like, hey, we need a starter. Who's going to pitch? Babe, get in there. It was like 1933 and 1930. Like you hear about 2 spot starts at the end of his career with the Yankees.
Wait, you want to hear?
Like when he was already hitting 60 home runs a year. Big fat ass Babe Ruth out there, making a spot start.
I'm going to give you some trivia right here. See if you know.
That's like Aaron Judge making a spot start for the Yankees. Do you realize how crazy that is?
How many innings in his prime or in one season do you think Cy Young threw in 1892? Do you have any guesses? How many innings did he throw?
How many games were played? Can we start there?
He started in 49 games and played in 53.
You told me that he played. I meant how many games were played in the league.
Oh, in the league. I don't.
Okay, 480 innings.
450, 453. And
I was going to guess 600.
I mean, and actually, I think this is funny. He had 168 strikeouts, but 118 walks. Ooh, that is ugly. Anyways, he ended with a 1.93 ERA. My point in all of this is just when I think of the Cy Young, it's a starter's award for me. It's volume, but it's also quality of of the volume. That's why, I mean, even last year when Snell won it, I was really rooting for Logan Webb. I thought Webb had, certainly an underdog chance. I don't know if he was a favorite, but I think he
Okay, but here's
really should have
this.
been considered a little more.
How about this though?
Or Zach Gallen
You
for that
think the
matter.
Baltimore Orioles right now, would they rather have Tariq Skubal or would they rather not have to deal with this bullshit bullpen every night and be like, oh my God, we're pulling our hair out because we don't have a closer? We're this great team and we can't close out games.
Yeah, you think they would have? You think they regret not pushing a little harder at the deadline? Because the Cubs have like the best bullpen ERA in baseball.
I mean,
since
I
this
know,
second
but
half.
my
And
mom,
what are they doing with it? Absolutely nothing. They're going to miss the playoffs.
yeah.
Like,
My uncle's
what
telling
the
me
hell?
today, oh, we should have gotten Tanner Scott. I'm like, Tanner Scott's not the difference maker you think he is.
I mean,
Like, he's okay. He's not the difference maker. Like, you went to got Sir Anthony Dominguez. That's not that different than Tanner Scott. The guy I would have gotten would have been Pete Fairbanks. That is, if you want to talk closer, Pete Fairbanks, sure. I would have given the house for him.
I mean, why aren't you, going after David Bednar or something? Or, I mean, I know Bednar's been horrible, but,
Again,
someone like that.
It was a seller's market. It sucked, but like,
Right.
whatever. It's idiotic because guess what? We do the trade deadline a month and a half early with the way baseball is with all the teams that make it now. Because think about it now, today. Look at the races in both leagues. You pretty much know the teams. Right now, the Mets and the Braves are pretty much battling for one spot, and that's it. Like San Diego and Arizona are making it. So like, whereas 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now, the date of the trade deadline, all these teams were all jumbled up and in it. So if they delayed the trade deadline by 3 weeks, guess what? We'd have a clear cut. We know who the teams are pretty much. Like, put it this way. The Mariners, right now, right at the time they were in the division. Now they're not going to win the division, and they're not even good enough to make the wild card.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just a testament too of how good the American League is this year. You got, Baltimore, Boston solid, and then Minnesota, Kansas City have been hot. Cleveland's been unbelievable.
I know.
Yeah,
So my point is though, like, shouldn't whatever the trade deadline's stupid, but that's why guys didn't get traded. You want to know why guys didn't get traded? Because the trade deadline should have been today.
Fair. All right.
I don't think you did a sell high.
I didn't do a sell high. You ready? You want my sell high? All that,
please.
For all of this for my sell high. I'm going to sell high on one of the best hitters in fantasy baseball over the last week, Gavin Lux.
I did. He was going to be one of my hots. Yes, go ahead.
Slashing over the last week, 400 batting average, 464 on base, 880 slugging percentage, 3 home runs, 10 total runs and RBIs. I want to believe this is like the Gavin Lux that we've been waiting on. I really do. But when I look at the underlying stuff, it screams that this isn't who he is. He doesn't hit the ball hard. He's got an average exit velo below 88 miles an hour. And this feels, again, lucky. Like you look at July and August, he's got 4 home runs in each of those months, but just 10 all year. And, people are like, oh, we just looked at the last week, 3 home runs. I think people are like, oh my God, he's finally here. I think it's a little fugazi. I think that it's going to regress a little bit and you're going to get a little dip in the batting average and on base. And I'm selling like yesterday. I'm selling him right now. I'm cashing out because, again, I think you can convince someone that this is the highly rated prospect that we thought we were going to get a long time ago. He's finally here. He's done with injuries. I think he's going to be a great ball player, but he's not an 880 slug. He's not a 1,000 OPS guy. He's just not. So sell high on Gavin Lux, please.
Especially this year. Now he is going to get some more at bats with Rosario gone, right? But he's still not a regular everyday player for them. He may have been he might be while he's hot, but I don't think he's. I don't think he projects to be that the rest of the way. Do you have you mentioned prospect. Is Gavin Lux is the top prospect? Do you have a prospect report?
I have a few, and I will say Gavin Lux has played every day since at least August 12th, because that's as far back as this goes. So he is at least playing every day. But I do have a little bit of a prospect report, not a whole lot, but 2 guys.
That's fine. I'm exhausted.
Who came up? Yeah, I know this is a long one, and I'm ready for bed. Junior Caminero came up. We briefly touched on him, but that was right before he came up and had any at bats. And I will mention he's held his own so far.
How about James Wood really starting to turn it up?
We knew that was coming. I mean, he's Ellie light. He hits the ball extremely hard. He hits the ball harder than Ellie. He doesn't run as much as Ellie, but that's the kind of like
Slightly
feeling that I
unfair to
get.
Ellie, but yeah, okay.
Why so? Because Ellie.
I just think Ellie's so special. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's why I said light. I mean, James Wood, but James Wood is absolutely special. I think James. Wood,
no, I know, but like, let's see it first.
Sure,
we've seen it. We've seen flashes. Sure,
absolutely. Back to Caminero though, 240 average so far, 367 on base, and when I said he held his own, we're talking 5 walks to 5 strikeouts, so 1-to-1 ratio there. I love to see it. Hasn't settled in yet, not hitting the cover off the ball, but it's looking promising for the future as we assumed it would. Not really going crazy for him at the end of this year. I'm not, going all out to acquire him, but it's been fun so far for Junior Caminero. And then my last guy here, I will mention Luken Baker, called up for the St. Louis Cardinals, first baseman, and he is a trendy name. You're going to see him in a lot of waiver wire pickups this week. Understandably so, Rami. He has, in 108 games so far in AAA, 32 home runs. He is absolutely destroying the baseball. And most importantly, and I think this is why they brought him up, he is destroying lefties. He has an OPS against lefties of 1,104. So 1,104 in 140 plate appearances. That is phenomenal.
That's like just lower than Aaron Judge's overall OPS.
Yes, exactly. This is Aaron Judge 2.0, but against lefties. The important thing, though, and something that I looked ahead to, and I don't know how much playing time he's going to get. We're talking potential short side of the platoon. And for the rest of this month, the Cardinals are not lined up to face a left-handed pitcher as a starter. So if you're banking on him to play against lefties, you're going to have to wait because he's not going to face a lefty, at least as a starter, for a little while. And he's already fighting playing time against Paul Goldschmidt, against, Wilson Contreras is going to take up some DH. Matt Carpenter, hit DH today over Luken Baker. So cautiously add him. We're going to, I love the long-term outlook. I'm not going to go crazy for him in Fab just because, again, we don't know what kind of playing time he's going to get. Yes, he's hitting a lot of home runs, but I'm not going crazy for him in Fab. And if I miss the boat, if he just goes on a tear, I'm okay with that. So, but just keep an eye out for Luken Baker for the St. Louis Cardinals.
What are you saving your Fab for at this point in the season?
That's a good question. I mean, I just don't have a lot of it left.
Figured I'd ask.
Is the problem. He's definitely one you throw a few bucks on. If you need an arm or something, I think it's, I like this matchup for this playoff week. And I have, $10 in Fab left. Well, I'm going to throw $1 on this pitcher, $1 on this pitcher, and try to play my matchup. So that's what I save my Fab for. More matchup play than anything else in the playoffs. Because again, I'm not going to spend all of my Fab on Luken Baker for him to sit on the bench and then get sent back down. And
no, you're right.
I could stream some guys or whatever the case is. So that's why you don't spend all your Fab, for ladies and gentlemen.
A wild episode, I would say.
Yeah.
Loaded. Really long. I'm exhausted.
Me too.
I will talk to you next time. Everyone like, subscribe, share the podcast. We appreciate you all for listening.
Yeah, sounds good.
See ya.